Welcome to another episode of FU Stigma Counseling Chats with Dr. Lott. Today we're going to talk about what schizophrenia is not. Stay tuned. Talk about on this channel has to do with stigma, and today I want to talk about schizophrenia specifically. I've done research on schizophrenia throughout my entire career. I've completed a dissertation on schizophrenia, specifically and how stigma impacts schizophrenia symptoms. And I found that the stigma associated with mental illness exacerbates symptoms. What do I mean by that? Somebody with schizophrenia might experience paranoia or anxiety, depression. They might experience hallucinations or delusions. The stigma associated with the mental illness itself seems to make those symptoms 10 times worse. So in the research study that I conducted, I found that my client who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, his anxiety and his paranoia increased, and it was based on how society saw him and how they treated him. And this took place in the mental health field as well. We are not immune to further stigmatizing mental health symptoms or stigma, mental health stigma. We're not immune to further stigmatizing mental health. So we have to be very conscientious of that. So the symptoms themselves are hard enough to deal with. But when you add stigma on top of it, it just makes it worse. I want to talk about what schizophrenia is not. And the first thing that people always say to me, schizophrenia is a personality disorder, right? No, schizophrenia is not a personality disorder. Schizophrenia has nothing to do with personality disorders. There's a lot of research on schizophrenia, so I'm not going to spend time talking about all of the symptoms and domains of schizophrenia, because this video is mainly about why schizophrenia is stigmatized, and it's based off myths and stereotypes that people have about the illness. So just so you know, schizophrenia is not a personality disorder. It does not have to do with people taking on different identities. That is called dissociative identity disorder. That's a whole totally different disorder. So that's the first thing it is not. My mom, who is an African American woman, believed for a long time, and she still does, to be honest with you, that schizophrenia is the result of a spirit or a demon. So she is religious in that way, where she thinks, oh, it must be a demon, it must be a spirit that's taken over them. It is not. It is a medical condition, and something happens in the brain where the neurotransmitters don't fire off in the way that they're supposed to, and people lose touch with reality. They see things, hear things that maybe you and I cannot see, but it is their perception, it is their reality. And it is not anything that someone can throw on you, or it's not contagious. You can't catch it. And it's not something that you can pray away. So that's another thing that I think a lot of people have this misconception that it is like they're possessed or they're demons, and that's just really, really untrue. And it really takes away from the science behind what the illness is. Another thing that schizophrenia is not, a lot of people think that if you have a severe mental illness, such as schizophrenia, that people who have these disorders are violent and dangerous. And a lot of that has to do with social media and just the society at large. This is untrue. Oftentimes, people with schizophrenia are more afraid of you than we should be of them. We should not be afraid. A lot of people living with schizophrenia are really immersed in their own world, and this is when they are symptomatic. I'm not speaking about when they are not symptomatic, but when they are symptomatic, they are not in touch with reality. They are in their own world. And if they have voices or visions of things or people telling them, you know, terrible things or threatening them, if you come into their space, they want to protect themselves. They don't want anything to do with what you got going on because they don't know if they can trust you. And I'm speaking from experience. This is not every case, so a disclaimer, I am not saying this is true for every single person dealing with this mental illness. I am speaking from 11 years of experience of the clients that I have worked with. They are not dangerous, they are not violent. And if they are, it is usually as a result of some psychosis that they might be experiencing where they need to protect themselves, but not because they just want to go and hurt people. So it really is unfortunate how if something bad happens, the media or people who don't understand schizophrenia or mental illness in general just blames the mental health community. It gets a bad name. The other thing I want to say is, from my experience working with this population, schizophrenia is a very devastating and difficult illness. However, it is not the end. And what I mean by that is I have seen people with schizophrenia learn to manage their illness and live a fulfilling, happy, and successful life. There are a lot of people with mental illnesses who struggle, and I don't say that they struggle. These are their words because I don't have the illness, so I can't say that they're struggling. It's not my story to tell, if that makes sense. But from what they've explained to me, when they do struggle, it doesn't mean that they can't have a good life or a good partnership or a family or a successful career. It's not the end of everything to have the diagnosis. Is it a struggle? Is it hard? Is it challenging? Absolutely. But are there parts of the illness that they've learned to manage where they can still live the life that they want to? Absolutely. It is important that we don't ever speak for something that we aren't dealing with ourselves, so I want to be very careful of that. These stories belong to the people that live them, and my job as an advocate is to give voice to those people who maybe feel like they don't have a voice because of stigma. So that is the purpose of this video. If you want to know more about this, I have other videos, or you can reach out to me. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.